Welcome to my Dust 2 counter-terrorist defense video. I'm going to show how to defend both the bomb sites and cat as well, or the way that I do it personally. Before I begin, I would like to show something. I would like to add something on to my terrorist video I did like 2 days ago. When you're taking cat as terrorist, you can come up here and aim at the top of this A and then run forward. And that's a good way to smoke off the op when you're taking cat. And it also blinds the guy who's standing here, so he has to come out here in the open. And like I said, it also blinds the sniper. So when you're coming cat and you use this smoke, they will not be able to shoot you from this spot behind the box or from back here. The op will have to be all the way back here to be able to see much of anything. So I would say that's the best smoke to do when going cat. Aim at the top of this A, run forward. It's a pretty good smoke. It's definitely better than that one I showed where you just do this. So that's what I would do for cat to add on. But to move on with my counter-terrorist approach, if you're going to be there can be an op back there picking and counting for the terrorist side, so you can smoke off mid like that before running across. I personally never do that until my teammates have been picked running across at least once. If nobody's died at all, I don't see the point in buying a smoke, because it probably means the guy who is opping is not very good. But if he is, go ahead and smoke mid when you run across, and that way he also can't count and inform his teammates. Now when you arrive to B, you can throw. I always do this. Just throw it, bounce it off this wall somewhere to block off tunnels so that they won't run through. And after you have smoked it, run over here and just wait. And if anybody runs through, you can just mow them down. You could also have a teammate by car just sitting and waiting to mow them down. Personally myself, I would never recommend trying to defend B without smoking. I always smoke, even if I don't know that they're rushing, because there's no reason not to, really. A smoke grenade's only $300, and doing this, you will prevent a B rush anytime that they do it. And B rushes are some very dangerous tactics. Like, if you are not prepared for a B rush, you probably won't win against a B rush, and this will prevent you from ever losing to a B rush. And when you do this smoke, I would recommend not ever having a teammate here or a teammate here. And the reason is because if you got a guy here waiting for them to come out, your guy by car can possibly shoot your teammate, which is just not good overall. So just buy a smoke. It's a nice cheap way to defend against a rush so that you don't just get mowed down in seconds, because if they do P90 rush, it's not going to be good. So you can have a guy here, you can have a guy back there, and you can also have a guy here, you can have a guy up here, or right here, or right here, back here behind barrels. There's just a multitude of places that you could be for this. I would also recommend this spot. It provides nice cover. But those are my B defense tactics as a counter-terrorist. They proved to be pretty useful. Personally, when I play with a team, I never have anybody on my team picking mid, just because it's not. That's why I don't think there's any problem smoking here. Most people say to smoke further back so that your op can sit right here and still pick while you run through behind the smoke, so that you don't get shot for crossing to B. But I just don't do that. I don't have a guy op mid. I don't think it's useful, and I don't think it's safe. And it's not useful because you can't really tell looking through this op where you think they're going to go. If you see one guy run left, or if you see one guy going toward long and one guy going toward B, or vice versa, or a guy the only time this is useful is if you see guys running up suicide. And I mean, it's still not really very useful. You might pick off one guy and be able to defend cat, but it's just not good enough. You should always have a guy guarding cat to begin with, and if 5 people on the terrorist team run into cat and the guy defending cat is any good, he should be able to kill them no problem. That's basically it. I mean, the guy who picks on every time I've done this, the guy who's picking on my team from CT always gets killed by the op in T. So he was useless. He just dropped a $5,000 weapon, and he did not provide any information to the team. So I wouldn't recommend an op mid. But that's pretty much all I have to say about the B side. It's pretty straightforward. Now for A, when you're rushing straight up long as soon as the round has started, you come up here, and I would recommend peeking doors just like this to see if you see anyone coming. If you don't see anyone coming, you can proceed and you can go to pit. You can come up here. You could come back here if you feel necessary to do so. I don't personally like pit myself, because when you're right here, everybody always stands about right here, and if there's a T coming around and he knows exactly, like if he has really good muscle memory, he'll just be able to turn and hit you real quick. He'll just one tap you, stop with the AK, one tap. But if you're up here, less people come up here typically. You have a nice wide area of where you can sit. You can rotate, and if they come through, you can spray them down like that. So that's a good spot right there. You can also, like you smoked B tunnels, you can smoke long A doors, and that way you can't get opt if they have an op and you can't afford one. So that's pretty much it for long A. If you do see, like if you're the guy peeking back here and nobody has crossed yet, and then you see 2 or 3 or even 5 terrorists coming from doors, immediately fall back to this position. And if they continue to run, you can pop flash them like that. However, you normally don't want your flash to touch the ground or a wall when you throw it, so that they'll hear it. Which, I mean, this throw they can also hear bounce off the wall, but they'll be less likely to suspect what it is. So run and just do that. I fucked it up. I didn't throw it high enough. If you throw it like that, it will be right here, and it will not touch the ground. It'll blow up, and everybody will be blinded by it, especially if they're not expecting it. So that's the long A position I normally play. I peek, see people, I fall back. If I don't, I pull up there. And I would not recommend ever having anybody by car. It's just useless. He'll just get shot, because if they do rush, he can't cross. He can only fall back and wait and hope that he can get 1 or 2 kills, which the guy who's hiding in a car never does. He always gets mowed down, because when the terrorists come around, that's all they have to do. Now, after you've fallen back and you've flashed, you can peek around and pick off anyone who's blind. And hopefully, if you don't die during this, you can fall back to this position, which I believe is called elevator. And you could just do this. And once the smoke goes up, you can pull around and hope there's a gap. You can look for a gap. If there's not a gap, you wait till you hear that everyone is crossed, and you slowly come out, and then you rush out here to get behind them. So, that is pretty much full detail of a long A position. At the end, you would come up behind them, try to kill as many people as you can, and during this entire time, as soon as you've seen the people coming long A, you should be calling to your teammates, calling out long A. Tell them long A is where they need to rotate to. And if your players are any good, they'll run from B to long A. And they do not want to go through T spawn. Tell your people to rotate either through CT spawn or through cat. If they run all the way around T spawn, by the time they get here, the terrorists have planted. They probably have an op watching several different directions. So they need to take the quickest course of action to rotate. And it is your job as this long A position to hold off the terrorist push as long as you can so that your teammates have time to reinforce. Now, along with the long A, since there's normally 3 people that go to A, you want to have an op back here. Now he can be behind barrels, or he can be right here. I would never recommend standing right here because he's out in the open more than he would be if he were behind barrels or back there. I would also not recommend this corner right here. A lot of people do this so that they can peek and kill people back there, but it doesn't really give them a huge advantage, especially if they don't hit the guy before he gets in pit, because then he can immediately come back and shoot the guy before he can get behind cover. So you want to play barrels and behind this box if you're watching long A with an op, or even just any other weapon. Now, the guy who watches cat has several different areas where he can go. He can pull up to this box and crouch and wait till he hears people coming and pop up and defend that way. He can also, when he hears people running, he can do a medium toss up, and that will blow up as pretty much as soon as it hits the ground, and it will blind everyone. Or you can aim it even a little further up and blow up before it touches anything. That will blind them all. They won't be expecting it. They'll barely have time to even see it. And if you don't know, the way you do a medium toss is you hold left and right click, and it'll do a medium toss. You aim up, boom, and they'll be blind. That one seems to get you even. So if you do this one, remember to turn a bit and then pop up, come around, drop down. So that's one position you can play for cat. You can also, there's this spot which I'm not too fond of, but you can be right here. You'll have medium coverage, medium cover, yeah. And you'll be able to hit people as they come up the stairs. It's not a bad spot, I'm just not good at playing it. Plus they can peek over the steps to where only you can see their head, but they can see a decent amount of you, I believe. Peeking to where you just see their head. Yeah, they've got the advantage, and they can move back and forth, and you just have to sit there. So I wouldn't recommend playing right there, but you can. So you can play there, right there, or you can play back by these boxes. This is personally my favorite position to play when I'm doing cat. I sometimes go over there, but this is safer. And I would not recommend just standing here like this. I'd recommend coming over here and peeking like this. Sort of like when you did at the long A doors. And if you do see some people coming, throw a smoke so that they have to be blinded when they run through, and it gives you an advantage. You can shoot them while they're blind. And as soon as you do see people coming, call out to your team how many people you have seen so far, but do not tell them to rotate cat unless you know for sure that all 5 people, or at the very least the bomb, is at cat, because sometimes it will just be a distraction and they won't actually be at cat. And while you're trying to defend cat from a single guy, they can come up here and start killing your teammates over here, and you may not even notice it. Or you could call and tell your team to rotate, and they'll be rotating to cat or here, and then the guy gets up to cat and he says, oh, there's only one guy here. Where the fuck did everybody go? And that whole time, they could have been going through tunnels slowly, and then they just push B and plant. So always make proper callings to your team. Call 1, 2, 3 guys cat, or count as many people as you can when you make out the calls so that they don't just immediately change course and come to help out on what turns out to be a single guy, and then they get a surprise plant. That's just about it for this video. Playing defense on dust is pretty simple. Just make sure that while you're defending, you always have good cover and you fall back to cover when you need to. There's not really a whole lot of throws you do. You just do regular throws. Just know when to use them. Use smoke to make it so that they don't push so hard, and if they do, they'll be easy to kill. And that should be it. Thanks for watching.